talking about bass, I'm talking about chips, talking about rings, you ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in, 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 tune in. This week in car audio. Yeah. Tune in, tune in. This week in car audio.
Welcome to This Week in Cardio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-hosted by Mr. Jeffrey Fernandez, the movie star. What's going on, Jeffrey?
It's going good. Man, I haven't been in a movie in a long time.
I know.
I need to get back into it. Just a couple of commercials here and there, but hopefully I'll get back into the movie scene.
That'd be cool. So how was your show this weekend?
It was good. Generally though, October, we have World Finals, and generally, like months after that is kind of like the down season, for a couple of organizations, really.
Right.
We're keeping it going here in Texas. We just did a show, okay, like you said, this past weekend.
I know, trying to get on points for next year, whatever.
Exactly, yeah. It's never too early to get points for finals, right?
Right.
The weather was kind of cold as well, so we kind of had a smaller crowd than usual, but that's to be expected, of course. But man, we're heating up with the base race. We had a new competitor, believe it or not, first time, and get this, first time competitor for her.
Okay.
So it was we got a girl competing. It was her first competition, and guess what? She won.
Oh.
She actually she took out a world finalist. It was a competitor that went to World Finals this past October. She ended up beating him, took first place. I'll let you guys check out the stats and the results on dbdragracing.com. But overall, it was a fun show. Julius Mac Johnson was there. Of course, he's at all the events.
Yep.
I presented him his points jacket for winning top in cycling. Yeah, he was, super ecstatic about it. He loved the jacket. There's a bunch of pictures that we took. It was a really cool show, pretty laid back.
Eric
so
Hansen says it wasn't him
gonna be
that
interesting.
That she beat.
Oh, he had to say that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just keep it out of world finalist in base race is who ended up succumbing to this first time competitor. But we all know how base race goes, right? And what I forgot to mention, I don't know, can we go straight into it, or did you want
Sure.
to? I didn't mean to cut you off, and I don't know if we want to thank our
Oh,
sponsors
yeah,
here
sorry.
first, real quick.
Yeah,
Or...
let's get to our sponsors real quick before we get going on. I always want to thank our sponsors. The sponsors we have are eBox out of Texas, there, design and fabrication. We also have Crossfire Car Audio and Voodoo Customs. If you guys ever want to support somebody, you should support somebody that supports the things that you guys like. SQ Sounds popping in out of Bridgetown, Barbados. We are worldwide here. Hey, just let you know,
Yes.
Tristan, I got a call or a text asking me to possibly go to Brazil for judges training. So that's something
Wow.
you guys might want to, just so you know, talking about February, March, possibly for judges training over in Sao Paulo. All right. Anyway, sorry. So what were we talking about? Base race.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, but I didn't want to get on a tangent and just keep going on and on and forget our sponsors. But
Yes.
so yeah, what I forgot to mention last week when we were
Yes,
doing
you
a
did.
finals recap was the bet that some of the judges had, myself, along with you and Chris Gregory
Yep.
out of Tennessee.
Wall Street Chris.
So yeah. So real quickly, it was a bet between us three, basically representing our territory. Me being Texas, Doug being California, Chris in Tennessee, and I guess the judge that
Had the
maybe
least
put it
amount of
politely,
wins.
at the least amount of wins, exactly, perfectly put, had to wear this T-shirt at the competitor party that was designed by the winner, I guess the judge with the most wins, I guess we could
That's
say.
correct.
And unfortunately, I did not win that bet, and I had to wear the T-shirt that was classy made by Chris, and I have the T-shirt right here. Yeah, so on the front here, as you can see, it says Tennessee Bass Racers. Okay,
Bass racers, yeah, yeah. Like
Bass
bass
Racers, and
fishing.
we turn it to the back here. It says better luck next time, Jeffrey. Tennessee 2, California 1, Texas 0.
Yep, and it's
And
signed.
yes, I made sure to have them sign, all the Tennessee Bass Racers sign the shirt. And let me see if I could exit out. I think there's a way I could exit out. There's a picture of me. Let's see, where
Share
is it
screen. So
at?
you bring it up on your screen and then hit share screen.
Or
Is that what
virtual.
you're
Oh,
trying to
it's
do?
on virtual background.
Oh,
So
okay.
I put it on there,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, there
Oh.
you go. I don't know. Can you see that? So that that was me wearing the shirt at the competitor party. I wore it backwards, but you couldn't tell because I had my collar covering it up. But it had all the information on the front that people needed to see, and to the right here was a picture that Chris Gregory presented the shirt to me, and there's E-Box, the Texas
That's
competitor that let me down. No, I'm just kidding. Who basically did his best, but wasn't able to pull it off for me. So he's forgiven. It happens, but he's on my my what list. So but yeah.
But speaking of Tennessee
Sorry.
base racers, we actually have a world champion 129.9 Tennessee base racer himself, Mr. Chris Caudel,
Yeah.
also the Trunk 5K world champion for 2023. Welcome, Chris.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
No, it's great,
He's a
great to have you
champ,
here.
double champ,
Yeah, champ,
Is
champ.
it champ?
champ.
So when did you have anything to do with the shirt?
You know,
Is
I, I
Chris on here?
I really thought it was going to be something worse than that.
I promise you, if I would
I
have won, it would have been so much worse. I promise
yeah,
you
so
that.
I thought it was really
True.
scaled down for Chris to just come out with that shirt and have us signed it. So I think Jeffrey came off pretty lucky on that deal.
All I asked for Chris was, hey, keep it. So good thing he did.
Mike Jones popping in saying, "Hey."
They did a good job on it. They did a good job on it.
Yep. Eric Hansen says
Okay.
he did
Cool.
much better in Owensboro. And Tiffany
Yeah.
from Bridgetown,
Redeemed
Barbados
himself
says
for sure.
congratulations. So yeah, so being a Tennessee base
Thank you.
racer
Thank
and
you.
claiming the 29.9, that's really cool. So why don't you tell us about your vehicle, equipment in there, and all that stuff?
All right. So, and just to be clear, I'm a Tennessee base racer in Kentucky.
And yeah, that's right. I was like, hey, he's from Kentucky.
So, yeah, I represent Southern Kentucky part of that. So, but anyway, but no, I've got a '91 Civic sedan. Really a simple setup because my part I compete with because it's completely separate than the car. But basically run sound digital amp, run sundown subs, and excess power Titan batteries. And I mean that's really the gist of it. It's nothing complicated.
What subs are you running? A pair of 12s, pair of 15s?
I run a pair of the 15 V3s, 15-inch V3s.
So that's like a mid-level driver for them?
No, that's probably going to be the top of the food chain
Oh, okay. So that's
for
not
SGL
short
anyway.
of Neo or something?
Yeah, it's a neodymium.
Oh, it is a Neo.
Yeah.
So it is. it's
Yeah,
one of their Neo drivers. I'm not super familiar with the Sundown brand. I don't see it a lot out here in California. You know, we see a lot of the DC Audio, obviously. You know, since they're
but
local, so we see a lot of that out here. You know, and theirs is real easy to tell. Whatever level it is, the higher the level, the better the subwoofer is. So
I
level
got
one
you.
being
I
the
got you.
bottom, level six being the top, right? So it makes it real easy to
Well,
tell.
they went from V1, V2, and now V3, and who
Okay.
knows? We'll see if Jacob comes out with the V4 here in the next year or so.
No, that's cool. I mean, yeah. So why don't you tell us, kind of first off, what got you into car audio? So what was your start in the car audio world?
So I can actually tell you the day, like, well, the time when I was 15. Me and my dad we're walking into a Walmart store, and a gentleman pulled in with a lowrider mini truck. This was back in about 1989,
Right?
and had a snug top on it. And he was jamming as he came into the parking lot. I was 15 at the time, and from then on, I was like, when I get my car and I can drive, I want that. And so from then on, when I got my first car, my dad helped me hook up my first system, and then after that, it was that was it. I wound up working for a local shop here in town, Postal Electronics. Did that for about 17 years, and started competing actually in sound quality back in about 1995.
Sound quality.
And I actually got into SPL in 2005, did that for a few years, and then kind of took a hiatus, focused more on the family, and then got
Mhm.
back into it back in 2017 and been back in it ever since.
Real
But
Well,
quick.
I will
let
say,
me ask you real
Oh,
quick.
wait,
Oh,
wait.
sorry, go
Real
ahead.
quick. Josh says to tell Chris we need to rerun just for fun.
Ah, there we
Josh
go.
oh yeah,
K2,
no,
Team DC
I'm
Josh. Anyway, what
yeah,
were you
no,
saying?
I'm down. Hey,
Oh, I was gonna ask Chris here. So do you recall that song you heard coming out of that lowrider?
no, I don't remember that. My memory's not that good
Ah,
anyway.
Okay, okay.
it's
So
like some people like they'll know exactly
right
what
here,
song they heard that just
right.
right there got them into base
So
hit.
here's my first experience with extreme bass, we'll call, right? Other than just
Mm,
kind of hear a little bass. Nevada Auto Sound right here in Reno. Um, I was getting into car audio. I thought the bump was real cool and this and that, and so I was there checking out the M&M Godfather subwoofers. And so
wow.
they sold Hyphonics amps and Godfather subs. And so I'm in there checking out. I go to walk out the door. The guy named, I believe his name was Brad. He had a Nissan
Oh,
mini truck, but it was jacked up mini truck because here in Reno we get snow, so he had you know like 28s on it or something, right? So it was a jacked up mini truck with a camper shell with 815s and a Hyphonic Zeus on it, playing
Wow.
Madonna like a
wow.
prayer. And I walked out, and it has the at the beginning, and then it hits that first note, bam! I was like, oh, the hell was that? Because I need that.
That's when you knew, right, Doug?
So I am one of those guys that I can remember the moment. I remember the truck. I remember what he had. I remember the
Mhm.
song.
Yeah.
That's how profound it was
Hey,
on
what
me.
year was that?
Let's see. So I would have been
What year was that?
15, so that'd have been 88.
Ah, Chr-
88. All right.
Chris
Yeah.
was 15 also. That seems to be like the the going age when you hear that first car and you're hooked.
But, hey, in that time period, it was that was real when it was really starting to get big.
Mm,
You started having big systems, people putting as many woofers in, and it was really starting to pick up the pace and pick up popularity back then in the late 80s.
Yeah,
mm,
there was
for sure.
somebody with a 68 bug that was literally 2 blocks away, and they were a Rockford Fosgate dealer, and they had 1610s, I believe, running like four
Wow.
punch 150s in the bug, and that was like the
Yeah,
competing system, you know.
yeah.
Uh, uh, oh, oh, Brad Stout. Brad is the owner of Nevada Auto Sound. That's what it was.
Hmm.
And okay, so check this out. Right across the street from Nevada Auto Sound used to be the movie theater in town, and they could only play the song every like for 2 minutes every hour because they would disrupt the movies that were across the street. Uh, Michael Longstreet uh, chiming in here says probably because at 15 you start paying attention to cars. He might not be wrong.
So true.
No, I
I
agree
think
with
so.
that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your dad, so was there somebody that was an influence to you also? Obviously your dad helped you out. Part of what we do on this podcast too is we talk about not just the person that's on here right now, but what brought them to it. Who's a influence in their feet in their, sometimes it might be your mom, your grandma, your dad, somebody, your uncle. A lot of uncles that really brought them in, brought them into this and kind of helped them along the way. So who's your like the guy you looked up to when you started doing car audio stuff?
Dad, and my talk about my dad, he didn't have big systems, but he didn't have factory systems
But he
either.
supported
You
you,
know, he
right?
would he he
Yeah.
supported me. He had shaft mounted Pioneer cassette players and acoustic 2-channel lamps on a set of 6x9s. That was
Hmm.
kind of the maybe an EQ booster in there, and then that was the gist of it. And then when I was able to drive and do my own, I took it to the next level. And from then on, I mean, that's literally all I ever wanted to do. I mean, whenever I got my job at the shop, that to me then that was my dream job, and that was in '97, and that's all I ever wanted to do. That's all I was concerned about. And the problem with it is it went from being a hobby to being a job,
And
and
an
then you get
addiction.
burned out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And an addiction. And now I left the shop in 2013, and now I can do it as a hobby again and really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's like the mechanic's
So
car's never working right. You know, the carpenter's
yeah,
house is never done. Same thing, you know? So, no,
yeah.
that's
My
cool.
thing is I never made enough money to be able to pay somebody to do the work for me. And so all my stuff was hands on, learning hands on, and of course making mistakes and learning from those mistakes
Oh
and
yeah.
building on that, and just going from one step to the other. And you got paid on Friday, and by Saturday the paycheck was gone because you spent it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it seemed like I paid the money at first to like I think I paid somebody $45 just to put in my head unit in my Toyota Corolla, and I was like, dude, this is all he did, Then I started tinkering, and I was like, putting in head units and amps and subs after that. So it was kind of like a little bit about the opposite for me. So I was like, wow, this stuff's pretty easy, I guess.
Well, I was lucky. I never burned my car down to the ground or destroyed anything. So I was I was pretty fortunate that I never damaged anything major anyway.
So, so that for people that are long time listeners, they'll remember this story. But so when my very first car that I owned and I installed this stereo, I shoved all the speaker wires the um, underneath the plate right there that goes underneath the door jam plate with a
Yeah.
screwdriver.
Oh
Lo and
Lord.
behold, a lot of
Uh-oh.
smoke came out from underneath that door jam one day. Dave
That's
Wayne
unfortunate.
Hunt says he's learned a lot from you. So, do you remember
Cool.
specifically what your first subwoofers you bought? So, for me, I bought two 10s and two 12s, both of the of Eminem Godfathers. And then I bought a Punch 150, no, I'm sorry, a Hyphonics 150 Odin and a Hyphonics 100 Cyclops, that was my first real stereo stuff I bought. What do you remember what yours was?
So my budget wasn't that high. So
Oh, I'm gonna say I was not a good boy at that time in my life, so I may have got those things fairly cheap. Just saying.
so my first system, and I'll just say this was my first complete system. Let's put it that. So had a Pioneer shaft cassette player in the dash, had a set of Pile 4x10s in the rear deck, and then had a Jensen, I think a A220 amplifier running a 15-inch MTX Terminator sub in the back, and a acoustic 190 amplifier running the Pile 4x10s in the rear deck.
There you go.
And all this was in a 82 four-door Cutlass Supreme. Cutlass Supreme.
So my first system I put in my Trans Am was, so I had that was the 412 or 212s, 210s, two 12s facing up, two 10s facing forward. I had Pioneer 6903s, I think they were the 6x9s. Yeah, the three way 6x9 three-way, so 6903. TS 6903s. I had the Craco deck with the EQ booster.
Rico.
Yes,
Nice.
Craco with
Nice.
the EQ booster in the dash. And that's what I had as my first real system, right? Um, and I didn't know anything about ohm loads or anything. I was like, man, if you wire your subs this
Same
way,
here.
they
Yeah,
they
sounds
just kind of
louder.
get louder. And
Same
My
here.
amp's on fire because it's so hot, but it's louder.
but it was definitely louder. And then
Yeah.
but the first attempt at like building a speaker box, I got some Realistic, which is Radio Shack. I got one of their 15-inch subwoofers. I put it in a wedge box that fit behind the seat of a truck because my dad had a truck. So I put it in the back of his truck. Josh says his first subs were MTX. Tyler Archer chiming in.
Ah, fancy.
Says these new guys. Anyway, and then I was like, I hear if you port the box, it's louder. So I took a 1.5-inch hole saw and just drilled a hole in the side of the box to make it louder. I truly don't believe that made it any louder.
No, probably not.
Well, so tell me, Chris, with that first setup, do you think you would have been able to base race back then?
Oh no.
No, you
No, so
wouldn't have.
many things have changed since then, and luckily for the better.
Mhm. Ah, I see.
I will tell you one of the things. So probably I'd say 6 months after that, I actually got my favorite subs. They're still my favorite subs today. Were the old Kicker Comp Go Letter 12s. I wound up getting a pair of those, built the right enclosure for it, and by far was one of the loudest setups I had in my car for a long time. I used those subs for a long time, and um, the old Kicker competition Go Letters are still some of my favorite even today, even though they're nowhere in the ballpark of what we have available for us today. But back then, they set the bar for everything else, really.
Real quick,
That's
Tyler
cool.
Archer chimes in with new guys are like EQ booster question mark. What's an EQ booster?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was back in the day when hey, there was you can either buy an amp that was 150 watts or you could buy a booster that was like 80 watts or 100 watts, and it was part of
Yeah.
the deck. So, but no, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was probably really about 15 watts actually is what it
I,
came out of it.
Exactly, RMS.
I believe
Yes.
that. I remember one of the first things I figured out too was like, hey, my car asked for a 500 CCA battery, but if I put an 1100 CCA battery in here, my stereo gets way louder. Starting with the prospect of it takes power to make power, which obviously I didn't know it at the time, right? So,
We all had to learn.
yep. And as a
Oh
matter
yeah.
of fact, that place that had the 68 bug, they had a decibel meter. So you would go in and they would charge you $10 and they would hang it from your mirror. So it was a stick mic that just hung
Hmm.
over your mirror, and that's how they measured your
Yeah.
dB. And I honestly don't remember what my dB was.
I think I measured mine at the shop here locally, and one of the first times I ever had one of my cars on a meter, and this was on a old audio control meter, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I think it did like 126 decibels, you know, which back then was it was okay, but by today's standards, that's nothing.
Josh says his
We all got to
Kenwood
start
amp.
somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. Josh says his Kenwood amp had a 0 ohm setting.
Wow.
Not sure that works. Tell
Uh,
that tell that to any one of
yeah,
your
how does that
amplifier
work?
engineers. Yeah, just run this at 0 ohms. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh
That's
man.
good stuff. Um, anyway, Mike Still, what day is Monte Carlo and what time? People text me in the middle of
So,
my thing.
Chris,
I don't get it.
what got you into base racing?
Yeah.
So this is only my second year in competing DB drag, and I'll say this, you know, I've done other organizations, you know, and DB drag was always thought of them as the pinnacle, you know, because DB drag is a worldwide
Mhm.
organization and has been for a while. So you literally have some of the best competition
Yeah.
around. But last year I competed and did. I started out, wasn't even going to run drag at all, and was asked. Actually, Dan Horner asked me to run Trunk 5K for. He said, "Why don't you get points for Trunk 5K?" Because I had went to the Newport, Tennessee show, which is a DTX show they had sponsored, and of course I've known Chris Gregory for a long time, and at that point had met David McKay earlier in the year, and I got even made the comment to David McKay, you know, I'm not ever going to base race, you know, that's not for me. And but once I kind of got into it last year, I really got interested in it. And anybody that knows me knows I'm a very competitive
Mhm.
person, and I was kind of rocky starting out, but I remember telling Chris Gregg, I was like, I'm going to figure this out, and I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna figure it out, and that's exactly what I did. I just kept practicing and trying to fine tune my system to make it work, and all the pieces fell into place. And now it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that it wasn't easy. It does take a lot of practice and a lot of work, like anything else does. But in the end, it was worth it.
Wow, I didn't know that. I actually thought you were a base racer first.
No, was not. I was an SPL guy first,
I
and
yeah.
but I will say this: I do enjoy probably base race more than anything
Mhm.
else that I do, and I think mostly, especially in the 29 class, because of the
Yeah,
level of competition.
Right.
that's for sure. I think maybe it was from the focus you have when I saw you at finals last year and this year. You're there in your chair, you got your, your head unit. I think you just kind of have it,
Yeah,
right up to, butt it up to yourself, not necessarily a podium, but and you're just controlling it, just you're just so focused. I thought, man, this guy looks like he's been doing this for years. But like you said, it just takes a little bit of practice, well, a lot of practice, I should say, practice, and just kind of getting to know your system and how to control it. So yeah.
I'll say
Wow.
this. So, but before I got into to back into competing here in 2017. I was drag racing motorcycles, and one thing with that is
Yes.
consistency, repetition, doing the same thing over and over again. And base race is kind of that way as well. You'll see me do the same things. I set up, do the exact same things every time I get into the lanes, and trying to be
Hmm.
consistent. And that when you're like that, it usually keeps you from making
Yeah.
mistakes. Um, don't be in a hurry. You know, try to take your time, try to relax, and be consistent on how you set the car up, be consistent how you do your runs, and that goes a long way.
Now, with that being said, do you have any like superstitions or I know you said you got to have
No,
it a certain way. Do you like you got to turn the EQ on first before you turn on the amps or anything like that?
I do have a routine I go through as
Routine,
far as
right?
how I set up the head unit, but I wouldn't call that superstitions. I don't have to wear a certain pair of shoes or a certain pair of underwear or shirt or something like that. You know, when I go to do I don't have lucky socks or anything like that, but I do. There is a kind of a mental checklist that I do in my
Yeah,
head,
yeah.
and I try to follow that every time. And like I said, and be consistent. It makes a difference.
We got a little special guest there in the chat, Lori Caudel, saying he practices with his
Oh,
wife in the garage.
Yeah.
ah,
So her car is set up as well. She's got some stuff going on, and last year she did some base race events. We actually usually will have a base race event here at our house. We'll
Okay.
do a 129 9 race here at our house.
cool.
And she started to do that last year, and she actually has done SPL with another organization and has done very well. She's a two-time champion herself, and she does very good with base race as well. And hopefully one day she can actually stay focused on it more and be in the lanes with us as well, and bring some hardware home in base racing.
Does she
So
do the 20s as well?
yeah, is she a 29 or
Yeah, her car
39?
Oh,
she's got a 2016 Honda Accord, and it's set up to where if she wants to base race with this, she can.
Okay. David Wayne Hunt says he eats, sleeps, and breathes competitively. So
I believe that's the Duke, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
saw that name and
oh,
you
the
messaged
Duke.
me and I was like, oh, that's the Duke.
Hey, so I see Mike Jones popping in here. And you were saying that you do an event at your house. So I heard like Mike Jones does some stuff with you guys too. What was going
Yeah.
on with the
So
Mike Jones thing?
while we're talking about that, I'm glad you all let me come on here tonight because it's one thing I wanted to bring up. So we're Mike Jones is a friend. He's a fellow competitor as well, and Mike's going. Him and his family are going through some tough times right now. Mike is in need of a lung transplant, and as anybody that has any knowledge about that or any medical procedure knows that it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to come together as a community, as a car audio community, and one make awareness, and then also to raise funds for Mike and his medical bills that he's going to endure. So there's a couple things that we're doing. There's a GoFundMe page set up for Mike right now. You can go to GoFundMe.com and search Mike Jones. You'll see my name, Chris Caudel, attached to that. You can donate there. Also on November the 4th, we are in Ashland City, Tennessee, at the Cheatham County Fairgrounds. We are doing we're hosting a show. There's going to be 3 organizations are going to be there that day, and we're going to try to raise money for Mike and his family. And I really want people to come out, even if you don't compete, even if you're not a car audio person, make the appearance. Mike's going to be there, and it would mean a lot to him. I'd like to get a bunch of people there to show up, just to show their support for him and say, hey, Mike, we're thinking about you. And if you can donate, if you do want to enter to get points, that's fantastic as well. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to get some manufacturers or dealers or distributors, if they can chip in, and if they have any items they'd like to donate for raffle, we're going to have a raffle set up to try to raise money as well. So it's one day that we're trying to come together as a car audio community to help Mike and his family, and to see if we can make their life a little easier at this time of need that they're going to have a long road ahead of them in the next probably year and maybe even 2 years. But I think with our help and with our support, we can make it easier. Mike's a great guy. He still has for anybody that knows him, he was at
Yeah,
finals.
that's right. Yeah, I
He
seen
was
him.
there both days. If you notice,
Yeah.
he was on a scooter. He was scooting around on a scooter. But he literally, guys, he can't walk from his house to his car, and he's out of breath. He's done. So he just this lung transplant is absolutely the most important thing in his life right now. And this is bigger than car audio or anything else that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I'm hoping that we can come together and make a difference in his life.
And so that's
Real
November
quickly,
4th, right? I just wanted to check with the date. That was
Yeah,
November 4th,
November
you
the
said,
4th. That's
which
correct.
is
Yeah.
3 weekends from
Yeah.
this Saturday. So,
That's correct.
okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jeffrey. Sorry about that.
I was able to find the GoFundMe, and I did put a link in the comments.
All right. Thank you.
Trying to find a way to pin
Oh.
it. But you might have to scroll a little bit. But it's there. It's GoFundMe.com, and it has the direct link to the GoFundMe for Mike Jones.
And I'll say this, if anybody has questions or comments, or if anybody wants to help in any way they can, by all means, me and Chris Gregory and Davey Well, Pop Tart, we're all trying to kind of putting this on. You can reach out to any of us if you have suggestions, or if you want to donate anything, please contact us. We'll be more than happy to listen to you, and hopefully you can help as well.
I pinned it, Jeffrey.
Oh, great. Good. So if you guys are checking out the podcast today, listening, well, we might have to find a way to get it on the listen only podcast part, but just do a search.
I'll put that up tomorrow on the
awesome.
listen only podcast also.
Okay.
Mike
cool.
Jones says thanks for the support, Chris.
Absolutely.
And he says he loves all you guys too. And then Lori says you can also message me or Chris if you want to donate or have questions, which is essentially what you were saying.
We're going to try to keep. We're going to try to do. This November 4th show is just kind of a first step on this.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get past the holidays and get to the first of the year, February or March, we're going to be looking at doing more shows. Probably going to be some base race events. We'll do here at the house, and even maybe 2-by shows that we can have. I've got a place here in Bowling Green. I think we can set up and do, because I do a local show here in Bowling Green every year, just for our local competitors, people that wouldn't usually go to a organization. And we've got a good location we can set up at if we need to have DB Drag or whoever else wants to get involved.
Okay. So who does your DB Drag judging when you're there? Does Chris drive over, or do you just do it?
Chris comes up. No,
Okay.
Chris comes up. Yeah.
That's cool. How far of a drive is it for him?
Chris is about an hour away.
Oh.
So, yeah. Let me say this. Chris Gregory has done a fantastic job on working with Tennessee and working with me here in Kentucky on having DB drag racing events and keeping DB drag racing active in this area. Without him, it would be hard pressed to find a local show in the Nashville area.
I believe that. Chris and excuse me. As with always, and I mention this on every time, is enthusiasm is contagious, and he's so enthusiastic and loves the base race and the community and the people, all that stuff so much that it just oozes contagion, and just being at one of his shows and being around the guy makes you want to compete more. So,
and even more so, he creates this nurturing environment where
he does.
He's willing to help others. He's got his family and other competitors within that group got their families involved as well. So it's not just, hey, we're Tennessee base racers, we're the best base racers in town type thing. It's like, hey, let's all help each other out, and I'll become. He's got all of Tennessee and even Kentucky here with Chris, base race and be world champion. So.
Well, one thing that he does try to do, and we all do, we want to encourage people to get involved, because we want to see this grow, just like I know you all do in your area. And one thing I will say with us being able to do satellite locations now, which we know we can do, we know it does work. It's fantastic. I think we could set up any particular weekend, and we could go up against California and Texas or any place else that the judge wants to set up, and have a multi-venue 2-by-point event or 1-by-point event or whatever, and have even that many more people involved in it.
Yep. Mike Jones says maybe we can even have one at the Fat Farm also.
Fat Farm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fat as in PH.
Yeah, so So Mike and his wife Rachel live in Russellville, Kentucky. That's about 20, 30 minutes here from Bowling Green.
Okay.
And they usually host several shows, different organizations, DB Drag as well. They're at their place. It's out in the country. They don't bother nobody. There's nobody around. They either got corn or tobacco or something like that that's being grown around their house, their property there. So we can pretty much do just about whatever we want to and not bother anybody.
Yeah. Killian's used to do that at their property. I don't know if you ever made a chance over there. Have you even met Gary Killian and his wife Leslie?
I have not met them. I know who they are, but I have not officially been introduced. No.
Yeah, they're in Kentucky also. You know. So
Yeah, he did it was a competition at his wedding day at his house, right?
That's right. So we did it
Wow.
for his wedding, and then we
Yeah.
also did it for like 2 of his anniversaries also. So May
Now,
7th.
what part of Kentucky are they in?
That part, I don't know, the sticks. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Gary
Yeah.
Killian. Oh man, he's got so many posts. Let's see.
Maybe you guys crossed paths one day and didn't even know it.
Hey, that's a
Mayfield.
possibility. Mayfield. Okay. Okay. That's actually not too far.
Yep. So yeah, he's in Mayfield.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours from Bowling Green, something like that.
Okay. So all kinds of Corvettes in your area, you know, whatever.
Well, the one good thing about Bowling Green is obviously the Corvette. But Beach Bend has a quarter-mile drag strip, and so there's always throughout the year there's always something that's going on here in Bowling Green, whether it's Fords or LS Fest or Mopars or whatever it may be. That there's always something going on, so it makes it a little more interesting to be in town. The Hot Rod Reunion is one big one that comes here to Bowling Green, so you'll see cars out and about. So it makes things interesting especially during the summer out on Scottsville Road or something like that. You'll never know what you'll see.
Now, do you take your Honda to like these car shows or cruises?
I'll take the Honda to a car show every once in a while. Chris is actually having a car show down in Rivergate on Saturday for a fundraiser, and so I get it out every once in a while. Yeah.
But do you ever like the kids do, just bass down the road?
Hey, let me tell you, this is made to go fast. It's a Honda.
I'll tell you, in California, the Honda is the car to go fast. If you see a Honda going down the street, it's probably going pretty damn fast.
Well, let me tell you, this car is a 56,000 mile original car. It's an automatic, and the trunk probably weighs as much as the rest of the car does. So you're not going anywhere fast. All right.
Yep. That's like I had a 77 Trans Am, and its curb weight prior to my stereo system was 3,300 pounds. It was 5,400 pounds when I was driving around with it with stereo stuff in it. Yeah, and it's the Trans Am. It's supposed to go fast, right? Yeah.
No, it was just supposed to drink gasoline. That was all.
Hey, it almost got 8 miles to the gallon, okay? But gas was like 78 cents a gallon then, right?
Yeah, it didn't matter back then. Yeah,
No.
it didn't matter.
David Wayne says, you're outnumbered, Judge. There's a lot of us Kentucky people in here. That's hilarious.
Lori here says, we base everywhere we go. Is that true?
Oh yeah, it's kind of funny because when I was younger, every car I had some kind of system in it, and and I jammed all the time. If I was in my car, especially as a teenager, there was only 2 volumes, wide open or off, and that was it. And now as I've gotten, I don't know if it's older, but which I've got other cars and stuff, but my car I drive every day doesn't have anything in it.
Right.
So, I enjoy getting out and being able to jam whenever I get the opportunity, but I got to drive the right car that's actually got equipment in it first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what was I going to ask you? So, your dad was a big influence. Your system, we went over. Base race. So you said you're newer to base race, as in just 2 years. What
Yeah,
would you
surprisingly.
say would be your biggest suggestion to somebody getting into base race? Maybe a tip or a trick to help some of these other base racers maybe get over the hump to be, because I will say, ultimately, with every base racer that I have, um, they don't want to win by 1 dB. They want to win by a tenth or 2 tenths at the very last second. They want
Yep.
it to be a competitive match, and that's the reason they're in base race. So I suspect you're the same way. What suggestion would you give to somebody that's coming up that might just get them to where they were, constantly hitting 9.7s or better, to kind of fine tune it so now they're hitting 9.9s more often than not?
Well, obviously the biggest thing is practice.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would say when you get in the lanes, don't even watch what your opponent's doing. Don't even look at his screen.
Wow.
When I'm in the lanes and I'm running against somebody, I I have when I do my run, just like when I set up my car, when I set up my head unit, I have a checklist I go through. When I do my run, I'm watching my score and I'm watching the time, and there's checkpoints that I'm hitting as I make my run. There's levels I want to be at when I'm doing my run, but I don't even care about what they're doing. I'm not watching their score. I'm literally watching my screen. I'm watching my score, and to know where I'm at, because if you're trying to start watching what your opponent's doing, you're going to lose your concentration. And once you do that, it's done.
Yep.
Um, Being consistent in base race for me is the biggest advantage that you can have. And that just takes a lot of practice. Um, and I will also, I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to say anything else about it. Chris Gregory and David McKay will know what I'm talking about. Don't focus on one particular brand. Test different brands. Don't just be just because somebody says, hey, you have to run this particular kind of head unit to win. Don't listen to that, because everybody's system is different.
That's
Test different things,
yeah.
because one thing that may work well for you may not work well for somebody else.
Hmm. And I think that's kind of
So
like an inside
Chris and
joke
David know what I'm
between.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
if Doug, as you know from finals last year, I did not use a Pioneer head unit when I
yeah.
won 29.9.
Right.
See that
I,
I was gonna say that was the inside joke between you guys
I,
was, and I think you even wear the brand T-shirt of the head unit that you
yeah.
use, which is Alpine, and that's the inside joke is that all the Tennessee base racers use Pioneers, right? But not yourself, right?
Not myself, no. I actually, of course, and of course, to go back to Alpine, so the shop I worked at, we were an Alpine dealer, have been
Uh-huh.
forever. So I'm a big Alpine guy. I mean, I've always loved Alpine head units, and so when I ran last year, I mean, that's what I used for my base race and my SPL runs, and it worked great. One thing for this year is I kind of started testing different things, started testing different brands.
Hmm.
And sure enough, depending on how the car is set up, some brands work better than others.
And Jeffrey will even attest to this when you're doing just pure SPL, because that's how we were when we were competing. There wasn't base race. Well, there was a little bit when Jeffrey was, but when I was competing, there wasn't base race. And in SPL, this deck might work with this amp, but you take that amp out and you swap that amp, to say you go from Rockford Fosgate to Crossfire, that deck may not work with that Crossfire amp.
Right. Yep.
Or might not work with the Rockford amp, and it might come alive with this different amp. And I know Jeffrey did, because I did too. We literally went through head unit after head unit.
Mhm.
I went through line drivers like crazy, trying to test line drivers, all
What are line
kinds of stuff.
drivers?
Uh-huh.
What's that you're talking about? I've never heard of a line driver.
So you got a little smack talking going on in the chat over here. Eric
Uh-oh.
Hansen says he wants to get to random numbers. Lori piping in with,
Ah.
"You can't handle randoms with this man." Just saying.
Ooh, yeah.
And David Wayne says it's Kenwood for him.
Mhm.
So yeah, I got a little
Oh,
trash
okay.
talking going on over in the thing. Oh
Hey,
shoot.
let me one thing I will say about base racing. This is what
Uh,
makes it so exciting. Anybody can get beat.
hmm
I
Yeah.
still believe I still believe it's 50% luck and 50% skill
Hmm. Interesting.
because it just you got to think when you're doing eliminations, you are 1/10 away from breaking out, but you don't know how close you are.
You don't know how close that 10th is. So I will tell you a little behind the scenes thing. So when we started putting base race into World Finals, Wayne was really nervous. He was like, "Man, we're gonna have a million ties," and I go, "Wayne, you need to drop the hundreds once they go to the
Yeah,
brackets, because those hundreds tell you a lot of
Yeah.
information."
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
And
oh yeah,
he didn't get that right at first, but then when I started showing him a few runs on video, he's like, "Oh, yeah, these guys can balance it in the 9.6 to 9.99.
Mhm.
You know, they can balance in there and be in a really good spot." And so if you remove that, you don't know if you're 9.98 or if you're 9.91, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And so it does make it much more difficult losing the hundredths of a dB.
And the other part of that equation that started last year was the boom check tracks.
Well,
You're just
I've only used Boom Check, and we've only used it out here. I mean, literally since it started.
yeah,
So for us, that wasn't a change, but I do understand other areas it was a pretty
yeah.
huge
Well,
change.
you're just adding another piece to that equation, another
Yeah.
variable to that
Yep,
equation, and it makes a big difference.
it does. All right.
Speaking of variables, base knobs seem to be a big variable for some people. Do you use
Mhm.
a base knob?
Only thing I use a base knob for is for my SPL runs. So
Ah, okay.
whenever I'm doing my base race, I take the base knob loose and don't use it. No,
Okay.
Do you use the same head unit for both formats?
no, no.
Oh,
Well,
wow, that's
it,
interesting.
well, it depends. I have last year.
Okay.
I did.
Hmm.
This year I did not. So and actually I've even used a different head unit to qualify with for a base race, and then use a different deck to do eliminations with.
Wow, that's
So
interesting to know. Yeah, I guess when you're locked in, you got your certain levels you want to be at for base race, and you don't want to fiddle around when you're doing SPL, and it's not
the
always
two
going to be the same adjustments.
no, it's
That's for sure.
two complete different monsters there between SPL and base race for sure.
They are.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hey, Jeffrey, we're running up on our hour.
Hmm.
Do you want to hit Chris real quick with the question?
Sure, sure. All right, Chris. This is a question that we ask all of our guests. Basically, we want to know what is your definition of a basehead?
My definition of a bass head would have to be one out of the whole spectrum of sound. The most important part is the bottom end, from 50 hertz and down, 50 hertz to 15 hertz. It's
Wow.
got to be loud. You've got to hit feel in your chest. Um, you know, if you can put 815s in your car, let's put 20 in there instead, and let's turn it wide open. I mean, that's the way I've always been. Is hear cars coming from a mile away. Yeah, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. You hear me before you see me, and I've always been like that. So my definition of a bass head is the more bass you can put in the car, the better it sounds.
Yeah, and what we've learned today, talking with you here, is you've been a lifelong basehead, probably longer,
Oh
than
yeah,
more than half your life. So, man,
yeah.
we go through life not even knowing, hey, I am a basehead. That's
No,
exactly.
I knew that from the beginning. There's no denying it. Now I will say I do enjoy a complete system.
Hmm.
Like I did SQ for a while, and if you look at SQ and SPL, both of them take the same amount of time and
They do.
dedication to do. There's not one that's easier than the other. The only difference
Mm.
is SQ is subjective,
Yep.
and SPL you're trying to beat the number on the meter.
Yep. And that's truly why I moved from SQ to SPL was I went to an event, and the gentleman that they used to say this is what a perfect car was at the event, and obviously his car got perfect scores and mine got ass. But to me,
It's a
well, but to
bummer.
me, I would sit in my car, I would listen to Hell's Bells, and it would literally sound like I was sitting in the center of the bell when the bell's ringing, and then
Yeah.
I could tell you on the stage where people were playing, and that to me was freaking awesome. That's why I
Yeah.
tell everybody whenever you're into SPL, it's if you're happy with how loud it is, then it's the right SPL system for you. On sound quality, if you enjoy the sounds you get and the imagery that you get when you listen to your music, then that's the right sound quality system for you. Don't let anybody else tell you that that's not good enough.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And, things, technology and things have changed so much
Oh yeah.
in the last several years. From what was going on in the 90s to what's going on now is it's not even
Oh
the
yeah.
same ballpark.
No,
Um,
I was doing time alignment with lengths of wires and stuff like
yeah.
that, and now you just plug in a DSP and you're good, right?
Yeah.
You can adjust
Yeah.
everything off a
Absolutely.
DSP. So,
Cool.
um,
I want to ask you, Chris, real quickly, before we sign off, so what is your goal going to be for this season? Is it going to be another championship? Is it going to be more of like a helping other people out capacity?
Well, obviously, I think I'm like anybody else. If somebody, asks for help,
Mhm.
I want to help them.
Yeah.
One thing that we don't want to do is we don't want our organization to fall off and to dwindle away. So if we get somebody that's even at least bit interested, we want to help them out to grow the organization, to make it
Mhm.
bigger, to get more competition. I'll say this um, about SPL, and the same thing about racing. There's always somebody when you're racing. There's always somebody faster.
Mhm.
In SPL, there's always somebody louder. Now they may not be louder on a particular day, but there's always somebody louder. When you go to a show and you're up against your competition, all you've got to do is be louder for that day to win that show, whether it's a championship or just a regular show. But if somebody needs help, absolutely take the time, answer
Mhm.
questions. You don't have to give them all your secrets. You don't have to go into explicit detail, but help them out. And that's one thing I can say with the Tennessee base racers is especially with base race is they do try to get more people involved. I think DB Drag has done an excellent job on this format, which makes it easier to get people introduced to it, to
Mhm.
get them involved. They don't have to spend a ton of money. They don't have to
Yeah.
spend a ton of time to get involved with it. And it's a good introduction to what we do and what we love. My plans for next season is to come back and do base race again. I enjoy it. And I also plan on coming back and doing Trunk 5K again. That is a very
defend your
difficult
title.
defend the title.
Yeah.
That's a very difficult class to compete with. There's a
Mhm.
ton of competition in there,
Oh
And
yeah.
I hear
and
there's a guy in Mexico coming for you next year. Just saying.
absolutely. There's always things that I've got ideas. I come up with ideas in my sleep, things I haven't thought of. Constantly trying to think of, okay, what can we do to get louder? What can we do to improve? And when that stops, that's when I'll be done.
Yeah. I got it. Now, so does that mean we're going to see a three-peat?
Hey, I have every intention of three-peating. Yes.
I heard, I think I overheard you and David McKay talk about three-peat. So I wanted to ask you about that. I know that's probably your intention, but I think there's like this inside joke between you guys about the three-peat, right?
Well, David was trying to go for three-peat in 39.9 this year,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen. Which I don't care what you're doing. It is hard to beat somebody three times in a row. It's hard
Yes.
to win three times in a row. So if I can pull that off, that will definitely be a huge feat for me, a big accomplishment. Something that I'll remember, for forever.
Yep.
So
All right, guys. So we got to sign off
Definitely.
here pretty soon. So November 4th. Any final words, Chris? Talk about your November 4th real quick. Where people get a hold
so
of you? How do people see you? All that stuff.
So you can probably the easiest thing to do is just message me on Facebook is the easiest thing to do. I've had people, that's how most people have contacted me so far. The GoFundMe page is up. If you don't feel comfortable doing a GoFundMe, contact me. We can work something else out. Obviously, we want to get people involved with our show November 4th in Ashland City, Tennessee, Cheatham County Fairgrounds. If you've got questions about that, please message me and let me know. If you have suggestions on something that we can do to help raise money for Mike, I absolutely want to hear what your suggestions are. If you have donations that you want to give for the raffle, guys, I'd love for some of these companies and distributors and stuff to step up and say, hey, we saw your video. We want to help any way that we can. If you see my video on Facebook, share it, get the word out. And, if you watch my video, the last thing that I always say, and I'll say it here as well, guys, say a prayer for Mike. There's power in prayer. And send Mike a message. Message him on Facebook. Let him know you're thinking about him. Let him know you're praying for him. Guys, Mike and Rachel are good people. And they need our help, and anything that we can do to help them, they will really appreciate it.
All right, Jeffrey, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, it was a good show today. I know we had talked about getting some guests onto the show, and I was there at World Finals, and I was like, man, we need to get Chris on the show. You know, he won 2 different formats. That's, pretty hard enough as it is.
Yep.
Let's get him on the podcast and see what he's about.
Hey, guys, and I'll say this: I'm honored to be on here. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and talk to you all. Thank you very much.
All right, and
our pleasure.
And for me, I pinned the thing for the GoFundMe, and I will also put it in the notes for the audio only podcast. So I'll get that on there too.
All right, thank you.
But other than that, like I said, on the West Coast, we're looking for Toys for Tots December 10th. That's at Brian Nyman's shop. So if you guys are around for that or whatever, that's an awesome show. Always going to love that. Jeremy Scroggins, just so you know, he's talking smack in the chat.
Oh no!
Your wife's responded to him. Is talking about how scared you are to come to 39.9.
Whoa.
Yeah. Your wife says scared of what? And so,
hey, let me say this about Jeremy.
Okay.
Ask him who won 29.9 last year at finals. Who did I run against in finals?
Oh.
I'm just saying, you got to ring the show for it. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Hey, and guys, I'll say this, and I think I speak for all the Tennessee-based racers. We look forward to running East Coast and Texas, and anybody else that wants to get involved. We look forward to doing a head-to-head competition again.
Yeah. Chris and I are going to set up a couple of those events, and I'm sure
All right,
Jeffrey will chime in too. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. I just want to tell you guys once again, thank you for coming in tonight. Thank you guys for paying attention. Keep Mike in your prayers. If you guys are fortunate enough to have that kind of money that you can share, help a brother out. Let's try and help Mike out. Also want to thank our sponsors. Once again, that's E-Box, Voodoo Customs, and Crossfire Car Audio. Without those guys, it'd be much more difficult to put on this podcast every week. But we will see you guys again next week at 5:30 California time, the only time that matters. We out of here. Peace.